Good afternoon. This is a public hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on March 9th, 2022, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Bob Rawls and I serve as the chair. Hearings are broadcast live on Channel 18 and are also recorded for the on-demand archives available on the town's website. Today's hearing is being conducted by remote video conference, originally pursuant to the governor's emergency COVID order, and now under an order allowing remote public meetings through July 2022. The agenda and copies of documents for review today are posted on the town's website. To all participants, after hearing from applicants, representatives, and interested parties, I will ask for comments and questions from commissioners. Please remain muted unless you are speaking. If you are attending by phone, mute using *6 and use *6 again to unmute. If you're on the Teams platform, indicate that you wish to speak by using the raise hand feature. If you're attending by phone, please unmute with *6 and address the chair. When recognized, please identify yourself for the record. If you're not a commissioner and you are on the Teams platform, please keep your camera turned off unless you are speaking. The commission will vote on each matter by roll call so that we have a record of a quorum. I'll now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Bob Del Vecchio, I believe, is not with us today, but I'll read out his name just in case. Janet Williams.
Present.
Karen Latin.
Present.
Mary Sullivan.
Present.
Elise Gordon, are you here yet?
I am present.
Oh, good. Oh, you made it. All right, good. Associate Member William Doherty. Associate Member Cheryl Meservey.
Present.
And I am here, so we do have a quorum. This being the second Wednesday of the month, we must finish today's hearing by 4:30 due to another broadcast on Channel 18. This gives us 3.5 hours to conduct our business. So that we can hear every application on the agenda, we may need to continue those that result in protracted discussion. Nikki Smith, Chatham's conservation agent, will now lead us through the agenda, including whether any items are being continued.
So we do not have any official continuances. 2020 Jericho Lane is likely a continuance. I think I saw David on the phone, so I don't know if he has anything to say about that, but I have not gotten an official request.
Okay.
But the first notice of intent is 90 Bridge Street. Robert Duncanson for the town of Chatham, map 14A, parcel 211, SE 103543, redevelopment of a mix of uses on the town-owned parcel, including an aquaculture facility for the propagation of shellfish, ADA accessible transient berthing facilities, and enhanced offloading facilities for commercial fishing operators.
Okay, good afternoon, members of the commission. For the record, Robert Duncanson, Director of Health and Natural Resources for the town of Chatham. I'm just going to provide a fairly brief overview of this project for your benefit, as well as members of the public that may be listening in. So with your permission, I'm going to share my screen, and we have a short PowerPoint presentation that hopefully will kind of put everything in perspective for you. I know you received a fairly thick notice of intent with a lot of information, and I'm not going to go through all of that today for you. So bear with me here. So can everybody see the first slide, which shows the project Locus?
Yes,
we can. Yep.
Okay, so the project is located on the Mitchell River, immediately adjacent to Bridge Street, right next to the Mitchell River Bridge. So that is the project Locus. This is an aerial view of the site. You can see the Mitchell River Bridge on the right-hand side, Stage Harbor Marine on the left, and that small area in the middle with a couple of parked cars and a rock revetment around the site. That is the 90 Bridge Street site. You can see it does have that rock revetment, which is licensed under an existing Chapter 91 license. There is also the remnants of an old boat ramp, kind of right about in the middle of the picture. There is what we call a T-dock immediately adjacent to that, which was rebuilt a number of years ago when the town purchased the property. We purchased the property in 2014, and that T-dock was rebuilt in the existing licensed footprint shortly thereafter to improve on the public access to the site. In the basically northeast corner of the site, there is an existing old shed building. There used to be a much larger building about where the crosswalk across the street is on the parcel. That was taken down shortly after the town purchased the property. That building having been used for a number of different uses over its years, including as a fish hatchery. So this site does have a fairly lengthy history of being used for that kind of purpose. This is a plan showing basically the site. Again, you've got Bridge Street, kind of that dark gray area running through. You've got the shed, the existing rock revetment, the T-pier, the old boat ramp. And as you could see in the photograph, basically all the flat area on the property is a pervious surface, either grassed or shell parking area. The entire site, if you will, is in the floodplain. And the flood elevation in that area is elevation 13, and the site averages about elevation 6. So there's no way to get around it, but basically the entire site would flood in a storm event. And as you can see, we've got the 50-foot no disturb line shown here on the plan, which does cut through the majority of the site. So the majority of the site is within the 50-foot no disturb zone. There is only a small part near the existing basically driveway entrance onto Bridge Street that is actually outside of the 50-foot no disturb zone. The next slide I've got is what is being proposed for the site and what is the subject of your notice of intent today. So as I indicated, the town of Chatham bought this site back in 2014, primarily to preserve waterfront access for the community. As I'm sure everyone knows, waterfront property is extremely hard to come by. And properties such as this, which provide public access, are very difficult to come by. So when this opportunity came up, it was brought before town meeting, and town meeting approved the purchase with the idea that the property would be used for various multiple purposes by commercial fishermen, recreational boaters, fishermen, and others who wanted to access the waterfront. And so we had some initial scoping meetings, if you will, about what was going to go on the site. And those involved a number of committees. So after several fits and starts of that, we actually started a joint committee meeting with 3 committees, including the Waterways Advisory Committee, the Shellfish Advisory Committee, and the South Coastal Harbor Plan Committee, all of which have jurisdiction or interest to varying degrees. We held multiple joint meetings, and you can imagine what it was like having 3 committees meeting simultaneously that all had somewhat different agendas, if you will. But we held those joint meetings. We had the consultants there with us at the time. We had town staff, and we had members of the public. And the upshot of that was the plan that you see before you, which was brought to the Board of Selectmen in 2019, which they approved in concept, and they directed staff to continue moving forward with the design and permitting. So just to walk through briefly what some of the major components of this plan are, we have an extension of the existing T-pier, basically down in the lower left, with a ramp and a new float system adjacent to it to provide more access for transient boaters and fishermen. Moving over to basically the southwest side, that is where we now have the new Shellfish Upweller. For those of you that aren't familiar, we currently have a Shellfish Upweller that is located in the lower level of the Harbor Masters building on Stage Harbor Road. However, there's a number of issues with that site, including the size of the site, the fact that the water intakes for the upweller are right adjacent to the vessel pump out and where other activities take place on various boats. So for a variety of reasons, that current Shellfish Upweller site is not the best. And so when this property was purchased in 2014, one of the primary reasons or one of the primary goals was to look at moving the Shellfish Upweller to this site because it was deemed to be more appropriate. So we do have the Shellfish Upweller here, which is kind of the gray area in the middle. It is surrounded by a public access dock or pier area, if you will, so that the public can have access to the waterfront. They will also be able to look into the upweller to see what's going on, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then we also have a number of float systems around the pile-supported upweller structure to, again, provide waterfront access, transient tie-up. Up here in the northeast corner, that float that kind of sticks out, that will provide dockage for municipal boats, primarily from the Shellfish Department. This gangway on the northeast side, if you will, is ADA compliant. That will lead to a concrete float, which will stay in year round. The three floats along basically the south face of the pier are Flupsy floats. So those are floats that will have capability to suspend shellfish from below the float in order to allow the shellfish to grow even larger. And then on the basically the southwest side, we have another ramp coming down to another couple of floats. The little cutout that you see in the deck here on the southwest corner is actually where the pumps will be for the upweller system. And I can show you that as well again in this minute. So those are principally the water components. The site will be ringed by a new FRP or fiber reinforced plastic bulkhead. Right now, the rock revetment that is there has no toe stones underneath it. So basically, the stones that you see are basically just lying on top of the underlying sediment. So there are no toe stones to really provide any stability. And in order to maximize the use of the site, and you could see in the earlier photograph how small the site is, by putting this bulkhead in front of the site, we basically address two issues. We provide stability for the rock retaining wall, and then when we fill behind that bulkhead, we will also expand the area that's available for parking and be able to get a couple of more parking spaces out of this site than currently exist. There will be a handicapped provided parking space as well, which doesn't really exist on the site today. And then there will be an ADA compliant walkway along the face of the bulkhead over to Bridge Street, and then a ramp that will go up and meet with the sidewalk that currently runs along Bridge Street to provide ADA access to the site. The existing shed, if you will be replaced by a new bathroom and storage structure, which I'll show you a picture of in a minute. And then right in front of the upweller will be a pervious parking area, which will be paved with pavers or paving blocks, which will allow the grass to grow through and water to infiltrate down. And that area is paved because that will be a parking space for the Shellfish Department staff, as well as providing vehicle access to the building to bring shellfish stock in and out and other materials. The remainder of the parking area, as it is today, will remain pervious. Probably will be surfaced with shells again. And then there'll be some additional guardrail work and whatnot. The site will be served by public water and sewer. If you've driven down Bridge Street lately, you know we did some work there this fall and early winter where we replaced the water main on Bridge Street as well as under the Mitchell River. And at the same time, we also installed sewer on Bridge Street so that we can now bring sewer into originally what was planned to be a composting toilet, but we're now able, because of the availability of sewer, to provide a regular restroom facility. One of the important things that's happening here, when we originally started this project, we were originally designing a purpose-built building, if you will, for the Shellfish Upweller. Not too long after we started that, the town was made aware that the old Coast Guard boathouse that used to be over on Stage Island, that had been removed from Chatham back in 2009, and was in storage in Quincy, and then at one point ended up over in Hull, that boathouse was once again available. It was bought by a private entity here in Chatham, and they subsequently, with the acceptance by the Board of Selectmen, that Coast Guard boathouse has now been donated back to the town of Chatham. And its footprint was just about the same size of the purpose-built building that we were designing. And so the Board of Selectmen, after discussion with staff, and we had an engineering evaluation done, determined that this Coast Guard boathouse should be repurposed as the Upweller building. And so we will be using the old Coast Guard boathouse that used to be right across the water from this location on Stage Island, will be now converted into the Upweller. And just to give you a sense of what that means, on the right-hand side of this plan is the interior of the Coast Guard boathouse once it's been outfitted for the Shellfish Upweller. And all the round circles that you see are the silos into which basically microscopic shellfish seed, or the size of a sand grain or a piece of rice, are introduced early in the season. Water is then pumped through the building in a flow-through system to provide food for those shellfish. And over the course of the summer and the early fall, they grow up to a certain size where they are then distributed throughout the waters of the town to supplement the natural set of shellfish, which is one of the reasons why Chatham has one of the most prolific shellfish industries in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, both recreationally and commercially. And it's through our shellfish propagation program, which has been going on since the mid-1980s, that Chatham has maintained its standing as really one of the premier shell fisheries in the Commonwealth. The upstairs of the Coast Guard boathouse, because it is a little bit taller than we were originally planning to build, but we will be adding stairs to the inside, which will then allow the upstairs of that building to be used for storage. Down here in the basically the lower right-hand corner, you see this kind of stippled area. That will be the seawater pump. There will be a couple of nozzles that will extend over the pier, as I talked about earlier. They will come up through this pump and will then be pumped into each individual tank and flow out the other end, and then the seawater will be discharged back under the building. This is a rendering of what you would see as you're driving across the Mitchell River Bridge from east to west. You would see, you can see the existing shed. Obviously, that will be replaced, but when the photo was taken, that shed is there, and that is just about the location where the new bathroom and storage shed will go. But you can see the Coast Guard boathouse here. You can see the deck around it. You can see the handicapped ramp leading down to the float systems that surround the pier. And then behind, outboard of that, you've got Mitchell River, and then looking off into Stage Harbor. So that is the look that you would see as you drive down the road. As I indicated, there will be a restroom/storage building that will have a handicapped restroom in it, as well as some storage area for the Shellfish folks, basically to store boat-related equipment and whatnot, to make it easier rather than having to traipse around in their trucks all the time carrying that equipment. Because the entire site is in the floodplain, and obviously, you know, if we raised everything up to be above the floodplain, it simply wouldn't work. So all the buildings are designed to be floodproof or to be flooded when necessary. They all have, you can see these little rectangles in the side of the building. Those are flood vents. So as floodwaters would come in and flow into the building, it then has a way to flow out. And we have similar flood vents in the Upweller building itself. All the utilities will be elevated above the floodplain, as well as the interior finishes will all be designed to get wet, dry out, and then not create, you know, things like mold and mildew issues. So we tried to take everything we could into account in terms of design, while allowing us to continue to have the facilities and all at the site that town meeting basically was looking for when the site was purchased. There will be, as indicated in notice of intent, there will be some dredging that takes place. These gray area in the middle, which says -6 existing, that is a currently licensed dredge footprint that exists and has existed for many years, in which the town has maintained on occasion since we bought the property. There are then 3 areas proposed for new dredging. The first larger one right underneath and just off the float system to -6, that is to provide sufficient depth for the saltwater intake pumps for the Upweller system. And we have graded that in such a way and actually have a more gentle slope to the side slopes for that dredge area to avoid creating a pocket area into which fine material could settle over time and then be problematic to remove. Because, you know, as you can see, part of this will be under the pile supported structure, which means once the pile supported structure is built and the Upweller building installed, it would be very difficult to reach this area again for future dredging. So we've tried to take that into account by having a shallower slope to the sidewalls than you might normally see. The second area and the third area are immediately off the bulkhead, and the design there is to provide vessel access immediately up to the new bulkhead. So a fishing boat or a small recreational boat could pull up there, tie up right to the bulkhead, and, you know, transfer material back and forth between the shore and the boat directly, as well as allowing boats to tie up to the face of the enlarged T-pier area. So I think that's all I have at the moment, and I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have Ted Keon here from Coastal Resources. We have Renee Gagne, our shellfish constable, Rachel Hutchinson, our propagation specialist, as well as Dan Robbins and Brad Saunders from GEI, the engineers that we're working with to address any questions the commission may have.
Well, thank you, Bob. So those individuals aren't going to be, they don't have any presentations planned.
No, we don't have any other presentation plan. We thought it would be easier to just address questions the commission has.
Okay. Well, I guess I could start. There were very thorough presentation, very thorough submission, 109, all 109 pages worth. There were a couple of themes that kept coming out of the comments that were made by various state review boards, and I'm sure you can anticipate some of the questions that we might have about those. First and foremost, perhaps, is that of the fact that it was recommended that the structure be raised above flood level. So right now, I didn't see a good discussion in the submissions as to why the design did not immediately have everything above flood level. So I'm sure you have some reasons for that.
Yes, we do, obviously. You know, it's like anything else, water dependent structures. If you try to raise them above the floodplain, in this, you know, in this case, we're going up roughly 6.5 to 7 feet. They basically become unusable, you know, in terms of access. And mainly for this case, the biggest issue was that increased head would cause major issues with the pump system. Obviously, pumping is not only dependent upon horizontal distance, but it's also dependent on vertical distance. So the higher up you go, the larger pumps, the noisier, the more energy use and everything else that they take. And where this was a water dependent use, being a shellfish upweller, you know, we just simply couldn't put a large enough pump system in that would give us the proper flows that we need. This facility provides about a 30% increase in our shellfish upweller capacity. And so going to a much larger pump to be able to pump through that additional head would have been problematic. In addition, just access into the building. You know, if you're driving up with a pickup truck with, you know, bags and bags of shellfish and or seed and whatnot, you've now got to carry that up a set of stairs. Or if you want to bring the shellfish out once they're larger in size, you know, it just logistically wouldn't work as well as it does at this level. And the alternative, as I mentioned, was to design the building in a way that it could get flooded and not create any serious concerns. So all the electrical, there really won't be any mechanical because the building will be primarily seasonal, so it won't be heated. There will be an emergency generator that will be located on the second floor out above the floodplain. And as I said, the other building, the storage bathroom building, is designed to be flooded. You know, that is the alternative. I don't know if Brad Saunders from GEI wants to add anything further.
No, I think that pretty much covered what we talked about.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. I guess I'm sure there'll be some follow-up questions on that question. The other issue, the main thing that I saw coming out of the state documents was the fact that there is there's a resource area, I guess, at the base of the existing revetment that would go away. And the suggestion in those comment letters was that mitigation be proposed either, well, actually, I guess the idea was it would be put somewhere on the adjacent property, which I assume they mean that town property across the road. And I don't know whether you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, we did. Obviously that's a topic that we talked about. Yes, there is a small portion of area that will be impacted by dredging in the intertidal zone to give us that water depth right on the face of the bulkhead. It is land containing shellfish, obviously. And so we are proposing, obviously, we will remove any shellfish that are in that area before any dredging takes place and relocate them to other areas in town. But our main position regarding the mitigation issue is that the Shellfish Upweller and the propagation program are serious mitigation in and of themselves. As I indicated, we have had them for many years, and being able to expand that and ensure the lifespan of that program into the future with a new facility, with an expanded facility, in our opinion, provides substantially more mitigation relative to the relatively minor area that will be impacted. And honestly, once the dredging is complete, there will be nothing preventing shellfish from reestablishing themselves in that area once again. Once the dredging complete, and everything kind of settles down a little bit. We have Renee Gagney on the line for the Shellfish Constable. I don't know if Renee wants to chime in on the mitigation issue.
Well, that was our proposal on the mitigation, is that the propagation program in and of itself is mitigation. We plan on, again, increasing our capacity, which means there'll be more shellfish in the water with the new facility. And again, usually around where we do any type of propagation work, that immediate area benefits from our work because we have escapees, et cetera, et cetera. So again, as Bob said, once that dredging area has been stabilized, it will just benefit from having the upweller there because the escapees will be able to settle in around that area. I don't know if there's any other questions.
Hi, Renee, this is Nikki. Are we just dredging the one time that during installation, are we just dredging that one time, or is this going to be like a more frequent dredging?
I'm actually going to hand that over to either Bob or Ted on a dredging question.
Yeah, Ted, why don't you take that one?
Sure. Hello, everybody. No dredging should be considered once and it's over and done with, presumably. Although that was a concern for this location in the sense, as Bob identified, we tried to design the dredging in such a way so that there would be minimal maintenance. There is no guarantee that that would be the case, that there would be no need to dredge in the future. So this dredging plan, like any dredging plans, would have presumably a maintenance component to it. We just hope that it's a minimal aspect. The only area that would be, as Bob already indicated, that would be problematic is the zone underneath the pier. The other areas would be very simple to dredge if they were to have an infilling situation. The material sampling that we have had the results subsequent to the submittal of the report to you folks. It is a sandy material with silt component higher than the 10%, as we knew it would be in all likelihood. We also had chemical testing, so the material is not a suitable beach nourishment material and will be hauled and deposited in a suitable upland source. And the chemical testing confirmed that it was not contaminated, as we somewhat anticipated as well.
Yeah, I think just to add to what Ted said, I think the other thing that we have going for us is just the site itself. It's a relatively quiet area, so we're not expecting the dredged areas to infill rapidly. It's not like Chatham Harbor or, Stage Harbor Channel where we have, dredging every 6 to 9 months, if you will, because of sand movement. This area is relatively quiet. So if it does require dredging in the future, I suspect it will be fairly far in the future that would require maintenance dredging.
Thank you, Bob. Other questions, Nikki, since you were.
I know Renee and sorry, my phone's on as well. Oh, sorry. All right. Renee had mentioned that the area would recolonize naturally. Is it possible that we can say, at least at one-time seeding to counteract? I mean, obviously there's going to be some loss of shellfish at some point during the dredging. So if we could do maybe a one-time seeding at some point after the dredging is complete and settled, I don't know if that makes sense. Renee would probably.
Well, if those are the wishes, we can certainly do that. But of course, if we plant there, the likelihood that they will be harvested is unlikely because there'll be all the user groups using that area after the fact. So I would propose that they be planted somewhere else so that they would benefit the public in a better capacity. And in all honesty, we do a fairly substantial propagating job throughout all of Stage Harbor Complex. And we try to really ration that out equally around the harbor. We usually make assessments on an annual basis. This area needs more this year. This area needs more this year. Just as a little background on how we propagate. But that would be my suggestion, is that we do some additional propagation or a one-time propagation in an area that would benefit the public more readily.
But in the same watershed.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay, all right, then, yeah, I'm okay with that then. My last question was the flotation system. Is that year round, or are they coming out in the winter?
It will be a combination. There will be a couple of concrete floats that the intent is they will stay in all winter. And then the Flupsy floats, the ones on the outer face of the pier, if you will, those will probably come out of the water because they will be made, more than likely, they will be made out of wood. And we wouldn't want to leave those in for the winter with the potential for ice and other damage. But we do have a couple of concrete floats that could stay in year round.
Just to expand on that, it's the two floats around the upweller with gangway access, and the float off the T-pier is also a concrete float, and that one is anticipated. So it's actually the three primary floats that would stay in, and the ones, as Bob mentioned, the Flupsies would likely come out.
All right, and we would just to note, we would add a condition that, you know, nothing touches, nothing bottoms out. You know, the dredging should take care of that, but there'll be a condition that nothing will bottom out
Right.
Yep.
year round.
And that actually, I don't know if Bob mentioned this, I don't recall in his presentation, that is, you know, one of the primary purposes for the minor dredging near the T-pier float, because it is a relatively shallow area and we did not want that to bottom out. So we are doing some dredging there primarily for that purpose. We had considered, to expand on that, we had considering trying to move that float even further out to sort of get away from that, but we were starting to impact access to the adjacent marina. So we really needed to kind of tuck it in where it is in order to maintain viable, you know, free access to the marina system.
Is that all, Nikki?
Yes, that's all I have for now.
Okay, thanks. I think I was talking a minute ago while muted, but anyway, what I said was I have a number of other questions, but I'm going to open it up at this point, give everyone a chance at it. How about Karen? You're muted, just like me.
Janet had her hand up first, but I just have a couple questions, so maybe I can go quickly.
Go for it, Karen.
Okay. I'm not, I'm not sure why a bathroom is needed there. It just seems like excessive additions to that area. That's one statement.
I can address that. We proposed a bathroom from the beginning of this project because the site, it is on the loop, the main walking trail. So there is a lot of foot traffic in the area. There's a lot of people that come down to go fishing off the Mitchell River Bridge. And so the town is always trying to look at it, providing more bathroom facilities to the public when it's possible. And as I said, in the initial phases of this project, we were considering a composting toilet unit. We've had one of those up on White Pond for going on 15 years now, and it's very successful. It's very heavily used in the summertime, so we thought that was a good option here. But then when the timing worked out with the sewer installation, we decided to go that route. So it's just, it's one of those amenities, if you will, that communities like Chatham that have a heavy tourist population and a lot of visitors, there's never enough bathrooms. And so we felt that given everything else that was going on at the site, and the fact that there's a fair amount of visitors that come down to the Upweller itself. School groups and others that come down to learn about upwelling and shellfishing, and Renee and Rachel do a great, kind of education program. We just thought it made a lot of sense at that site to have a bathroom facility available. It would only be a 1-unit unisex bathroom. It's not like, it's a major facility. And the size of the new building with the bathroom and with the storage area is not drastically different from the size of the shed that currently exists.
And the only thing I would add to that is we also currently, provide a porta-john. So, we would be providing some sort of amenity anyway, and obviously this would be a much more appropriate amenity than another ugly porta-john there.
True. And I guess if school kids and everything are there, I guess it could be necessary. The other thing is the area calculations table with existing proposed net change is not filled in at all in the NOI. And I was wondering if, there's obviously changes. So it would be nice to have those numbers.
Brad, do you want to address that one?
Yes, that was an error on our part. We'll get that filled in and sent to you.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had for now.
Thank you, Karen. Janet?
Okay, thanks, Bob. I did want to follow up on Bob's questions about flood levels and how the design is taking likely flooding into account. You said that the bathroom facility will be equipped with flood vents. Is that also true of the Upweller building? Is that going to have flood vents at the lower level?
Yes.
And is there any electrical systems in that building at a level that could be impacted by any flood water? What level are they at?
No, as I indicated, all the utilities will be located up on the second floor, if you will, out above the floodplain.
So the electrical systems for running those pumps will be upstairs?
Yeah, the pump will be downstairs itself, but the pumps are designed, for
they're underwater, right? Or
yeah. So, yeah, but everything else will be above the floodplain.
Okay, so they'll be out of, so what is the plan for an extreme storm event that might take place in this area that drives water level up and through the building? What are your concerns about that eventuality?
First of all, the building itself, the old Coast Guard boathouse. I spent 20 years in the Coast Guard, worked in a boathouse very similar to that. They are built for that purpose. They are designed to be flooded because they are always in the floodplain, if you will. And then we have designed everything that we are putting inside the building to be of appropriate finish and materials that, yeah, they can get wet and then they just will simply dry out. They won't decay or rot or, become mold and mildew. So, we've tried to incorporate as much of that as possible into this and keep things that, we can't flood proof, if you will, keep those out of, up on the second floor, out of the area that would be impacted. But, we recognize that, short of either not building it or having it so far up in the air that it's unusable, that, we have to design a building that is going to flood and just be prepared for that.
That was the question, right? What are the preparations? So thank you for that. Changing subject slightly, a number of the projects that we've seen along the river in this area, we were concerned about impacts to eelgrass. And I went 109 pages, but I don't recall seeing any information that addressed how you know that whether there's eelgrass in that area.
Ted?
Yeah, there are no mapped eelgrass in this area. We have done a number of visual investigations. The survey team that was out there doing core samples and so forth also did not find anything. Renee, I believe, not to speak for her since she's on the phone, also confirmed that she's never seen eelgrass, at this location. So there's no indication that that is a resource of concern in this footprint.
Okay. Okay, so that's been fully investigated and there's no evidence indicating
Correct.
that. Okay, thank you. That's it for the moment for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Cheryl.
I just have one question. I am curious about the edge of the property next to the marina. Right now, there's some erosion there. I'm just curious what's going to be done to make sure that doesn't continue in the future.
If I may, I'm just to clarify the corner where sort of the existing rock revetment of our property sort of ties into the adjacent property. We do
Yes.
have the bulkhead that is to be driven right at the toe of the revetment will actually have a return into the upland to prevent any flanking, if you will, to the adjacent property. I believe we're also going to do some minor improvements right at that corner to sort of make the transition between the two properties, better, if you will.
Right.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Janet again.
Thank you. Cheryl reminded me of a question that I had about, so you said that there's a concern that the existing old revetment does not have toe stones and may not be the model of stability. So am I correct in thinking that the bulkhead is going to be placed at whatever you call the edge of it, the toe, and leaving it in place and then backfilling behind the bulkhead? Is that,
Yes,
what is the?
That is correct. Yep. Yeah, so we're gonna put, early on in the evaluation process, the engineers actually went out and probed the bottom of the existing revetment just to verify if there were or were not any toe stones. And unfortunately, they did verify there were none. So that's when we made the decision to go ahead and put the bulkhead basically right at the front edge, if you will, of those stones, because we don't anticipate any obstacles in the way because there's none that we could find. And then we will leave that existing revetment there because it is, it's fairly substantial. It's pretty good sized stones. It is concrete in between, hold them all together. So it would actually be more disruptive to the site to try to take it out. And so once the new bulkhead's in, we would then fill behind that, just that kind of V-shaped space between the bulkhead and the slope of the stones to basically create a flat area so we can expand the parking as well as put the handicapped ramp or walkway along that top edge of along the shore side edge of the bulkhead, if you will.
And does leaving the bulkhead in place raise any concerns in your minds about its stability? If you fill in front of it and put the bulkhead, is that going to be sufficient to ensure that there's no issue with a failure of the structure of the revetment?
Yeah, I mean, it's been there so long already that, it hasn't shown any signs and it's been there all these years without any toe stones. Ted, I'm sure, can chime in even more.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight, we're actually going to be removing a portion of the upper portion of the rock revetment because we will need that space to provide the tieback system that runs from the proposed bulkhead. So we will be removing, Dan could chime in if it's important, but say an upper third, if you will, of the stone so that there is free passage for the tie rod system to then go back to the dead men that will be interior in the upland area.
That was what I
I've
was
got
going to
that.
explain there.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, let's see. No, oh, Mary.
Sorry, as soon as you were gonna move on, just a quick question on the time frame for this. I'm assuming I saw that there's a recommendation that no work be done from January through May to protect the flounder spawning. Is that all worked into your schedule? So
And I'll jump in on that one. The flounder window is for in-water work and turbidity issues and so forth. we would be working during that period, and that's the purpose of the silt curtain generally, and I believe that is the case in this case, that with the inclusion of a silt curtain prior to the January 15 window, then we are able to do in-water work during that period. That's been the case on our other projects. The trap dock, which is very similar conceptually, kind of a pile-supported pier, had the same conditions, and that had dredging as well. It had the same conditions. So we will be working presumably during the winter period, during that window, but we will have the protections in place.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, you're still muted.
Bob, you're muted.
A couple of more other items that were pointed out in the state documents were that there should be, or have to be, or ought to be a spill contingency plan as well as a waste management plan. Can I assume that you have those or will have those?
Yeah,
We will have those. Those will be required by the contractor as part of the specifications.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be, I would enjoy actually at some point before all this is said and done I think the commission ought to have a look at those. I think it's particularly important for a building that's essentially built out over water, for that to be thought through and for plans to be in place to deal with it quickly, or better yet, to prevent it from happening. I don't know what the odds are of that happening in this facility, but it wouldn't be good if it happened, especially over in Upweller.
Yeah, I think the important thing to keep in mind too is there won't be any hazardous materials or anything like that stored in the building or used in the building, because
Okay.
as you just pointed out, it is a shellfish upweller, and we don't really want to have anything toxic in the building that could potentially get into the tanks. And that's one of the reasons why we're looking at relocating the upweller from where it is now, because the intakes right now are very close to places where, sewage is pumped out of boats. Some larger boats take on fuel at the adjacent trap dock facility. So, those kinds of things can be very problematic if they were to get in the water, say, and then be sucked into the upweller facility. So yeah, there's really isn't going to be anything in the building that would be of that nature. I mean, the only thing that I can think of would be the minimal amount of, say, oil, lubricating oil that might be in the emergency generator. But that will be upstairs in a properly formatted location, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So
And Bob,
no.
just real quick and I wasn't sure if you meant those contingency plans for the project after construction or for the contractor, during construction. That's a standard kind of requirement that we would have the contractor provide those types of protocols in place, as well as a sort of a storm management plan on how he would, move equipment away during storm events. So that would be, again, part of the normal contractual requirements during construction.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking as much, maybe if not more, for after everything's in place and operational. And so I hear Dr. Bob say that there'll be no, so I'm just to be clear, you think that there will be no gasoline powered machinery inside the building?
There should not be.
Would it be okay to have that as an order of condition?
I can't see any reason why not at this point. The only, and I'm trying in my head to think of some circumstance.
I
where
think
we
Ted may
like
have thought of
there.
one.
Huh?
I'm trying to think of, again, our existing operation and what the harbor master has sort of over at his, trash pumps for emergency, water pumping if we needed, but everything of that nature, the second floor of this building, not even the mezzanine, the second floor is way out of the floodplain. So that kind of equipment that we would presumably like to have nearby, when and if needed in a short order, could be stored up in the upper storage area well out of the floodplain. So, I'm uncomfortable at this point saying that there would be never any gasoline type powered equipment here, at the facility itself, because I think there may be opportunities or needs for it, but those will be kept way out of the floodplain, way up on the second storage area, completely out of the floodplain.
And something like a trash pump wouldn't be stored in that building anyway. We have those on trailers. And those are kept in other locations like the wastewater treatment plant. And, in the event of a power failure, and as I said, we've included an emergency generator to hopefully not have to deal with that. But if we did have to bring, say, a gasoline powered trash pump down, it would be outside the building. And it would be brought there after any, let's say it was a flooding incident, or as opposed to just a power loss. It would be brought there after the flooding and set up and run and monitored, just like we do now when we lose power at the current upweller. If we have to bring a temporary trash pump down for 24 or 48 hours till the power comes back on, kind of thing. Renee?
As a matter of operations, we do things like power washing and whatnot. So there is occasionally jerry jugs here and there. Usually they're in the back of our truck. And move with us as we work. But we do deal with some gas operated machinery, small machinery, but it's temporary. It's not a daily event.
Right. So sounds like we could have something that says no permanent installation of gasoline powered machinery in the building.
I was also going to suggest maybe just have if there's a upcoming storm event that we're aware of, make sure that any hazardous material is taken care of. And
we're usually on site if there's any kind of prediction of a big storm, because we're always watching out for the animals in and of themselves. So we're usually, as I mentioned, on site when there's any kind of prediction.
All right, thank you.
We do have a set of protocols that we'd like to have we've used in the past for storm preparedness, and ask that you have a protocol set up and that Nikki has a copy of that, and that goes a long way toward giving some confidence. Sorry to jump in, but just wanted to get that out there.
Okay.
Actually, I see there's a hand up from Dan Robbins.
Dan's our engineer.
Oh, okay. Does Dan have something to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I had just one thing to add in on the generator there, and that is that the generator is planned to have basically a pan underneath it. So anything, if there was to have any of the lubricating fluids, they would actually not be able to leak out. They would be contained within a pan there for any maintenance. And it's a natural gas powered generator, so. As far as fuel goes, it would be from the natural gas pipeline.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's another item in the state comments having to do with the machinery that the vehicles that are used on site have to adhere to, and I actually was unfamiliar with this designation, federal tier 4 requirements. I don't know if you saw that or know about it or intend to be compliant with it.
I don't recall that comment. Bob?
Yeah, me
well,
neither.
It's there.
Is that in the MIPA?
I'm trying to, I don't know if I wrote down exactly where it is, but if you search for tier 4, I think you'll find it. But it has to do with the.
Yeah. Do any of our consultants recall that? Because it's referencing to the vehicles we use at the site, our pickup trucks.
I mean, the only vehicles will be the same Shellfish pickup trucks that we use now. So.
Yeah, it's just your standard old trucks. So.
Right.
They're looking for something conceivably more than that. You may want to take a look at that comment in there. It very well may be that you say that that's not feasible, but nevertheless, I think you ought to have some response to it.
Okay.
And if you can't find it, I will find it.
An emissions requirement there. Anything else?
We will review that with the project team.
Okay. So after all, I see no further hands up for the moment. The only thing that I keep coming back to is the floodplain issue, or I mean the elevation issue. And I know you've raised some arguments here, all of you have, and I hear them, but I think it would be wise, I personally think to be wise, if you put together a short document explaining the reasons why you consider it to be not feasible to meet floodplain, to meet the requirements for elevating it to the point where climate change and the associated elevation of floodwaters are an acceptable risk to the town. In other words, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we expect that could be an issue. I think it would be good to have a clearly reasoned statement as to why that risk is acceptable to take by the town. It's almost like saying, I think you would have to say, yeah, we know that's coming, but we can't do anything about it, and we're accepting the risk.
Okay, we will put something together and get that to the commission. And I did just find the reference to the tier 4, and it's in reference to project contractors. So we will review that, and that is probably something that may already be in our plans and specs with regard to that. But we'll double check that.
All right, Janet, you're back.
Yes, I'm back. So following up on that comment, Bob, and what you prepare in terms of the elevation, I did note in the document, the MIPA document from, I think it's from EEA, but it references the Massachusetts State Building Code requirements, requires that it be at BFE plus 1 foot, which would be 14, and it's not at that level. And so it says deviation will require a variance from the State Board of Building Appeals. The town can provide justification to this board for both proposed structures, which will then determine whether variances are warranted. So you're going to have to justify the elevations to them in any case. So
yes, yes, we're aware of that. We're aware of that, and that process is already in underway, if you will. Yeah, we've been having regular conversations with the building commissioner about the process, and so that process is already underway.
Good, because our concerns are aligned a bit essentially with those, so it's not all that different an inquiry. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, no more hands raised, and we have spent an hour. And we, as I mentioned at the outset, we do have a hard deadline today. So just to recap what we've asked you that might require additional revised documentation. Of course, I can remember the one that I asked for, which is that there be a statement as to why the elevation can't be higher of the buildings and the structures. In your documents, was there a statement to the effect that the shellfish propagation is adequate mitigation? Okay. Janice is shaking her head yes. Okay, I must have missed that. All right.
We also need the calculations for the areas.
The coverage table, yes.
Yes.
Needs to be filled in. Very good. Anything else from anybody that they can remember over the last hour? Okay, good. Not much. Thank you.
You wanted some sort of discussion of the kind of spill maintenance plan or hazard plan, if you will.
Yeah. I heard that it was going to be developed, so I don't know. I don't know if you're developing that for one of the other review processes, one of the other mini review processes that you have to go through. But when it's available, I'm not sure you'll have it available before we bring this to closure here. I think the commission would like to. I would like to see it, and I'm sure the commission would enjoy looking at it because it's a key part, I think, of protecting the environment here.
Okay.
If you cannot get that document in before the order of conditions is issued, if you could just give me what you think will be the title, so we can include that in the order of conditions document list.
Okay.
Okay, very
All
good.
right.
Thank you. Very well
Okay.
done. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we need to vote on a,
So it would be a
When are we moving
continuance.
it to?
Yeah, so April 6th would be if we're ready to draft an order pending some of these documents. I mean, most of what we discussed is kind of stuff that just has to go in the special conditions, not so much updated materials. I mean, they're not changing the footprint or any of that kind of stuff. So I would be okay with April 6th if everyone wants to see any of those documents we've been discussing that we want submitted beforehand. That would be April 13th.
I don't know what your timeframes are. I imagine they're not immediate.
We will try our best to get you whatever you need by the April 6th meeting.
So we're
So
moving
in
for
that
that?
meeting, we would, so we would review any new submittals and maybe do a small discussion, and then the order of conditions should be ready to vote on at that meeting.
All right. I move that we send 90 Bridge Street to April 6th meeting, 2022 for an order of conditions.
And so Karen, you're usually the seconder, but you are now the mover, so we need a
Well,
second.
because Bob's not
I know,
here,
and I appreciate you stepping forward.
but nobody's seconding.
I'll second.
We'll wait them out. All right,
Elise is our new seconder
very
for
good.
today.
Roll call vote. Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next notice of intent is 48 Strong Island Road, Maureen Sullivan and Thomas Fontaine, map 12M, parcel 12C6. There is no SE number as of a few hours ago. This is construction of a second floor addition, rebuild first floor deck, first floor stoop, driveway expansion, vegetation mitigation, and land management.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. For the record, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast. The property owners are online. I don't see Teresa. No, I do see Teresa online. So the gang's all here. This property was constructed around 1985. It was before the floodplain was as extreme as it is today. The floodplain now intercepts a couple of slopes and meets the qualifications for a coastal bank. It does not provide a sediment source. It is just a vertical buffer, whatever that's worth. So the layout that we have out here to work with is not like anything that we have proposed today on this site. We have a front door facing out to the north with a driveway leading to it. We have a drive under garage facing out to the southwest with a driveway leading to it. There are walking paths or accesses all around the building. So with that, the proposal, there is a proposal for more space. They plan to go up with dormers. They propose to construct a new front entryway. And those are both within the 0 to 50. Heading around the building, we look at really a sprucing up of everything. There are patios that are out there today. They want to consolidate those down to one patio with a fire pit. From the lower driveway to those patios in the walkway at the southern side of the building. They currently have a railroad tie walkway that needs to be replaced. They're proposing to replace it with granite. As mentioned, the driveway is being reconfigured so 2 cars can fit with it. It's also being shortened a little bit. In anticipation of Janet's question, it's about 16 to 18 cubic yards of material that would be needed, or 2 small truckfuls for the change in the grade out there. The current deck extends over the floodplain. The proposed deck is being placed outside of the floodplain, so when it's flooded, it'll all see the sky. Heading around the building towards the west, there is a walkway that's over there, and that's proposed to be reconstructed. Pervious brick walkway leading up to a set of stairs, and the granite, some stone in between. A formal rinse station is proposed off of the westerly corner, and that brings us back to the front of the property. There is a garden out there, kind of lost in the overgrowth. That's to be removed, and Teresa can take over from here with all the wonderful side of the project, where she's remedying many of the gardens that exist today.
Okay, thanks, Thad. Good afternoon, everyone. Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design. Just a quick overview of what's existing out on the site. We have a single family dwelling, 2 gravel driveways, attached deck. As Thad pointed out, the fragmented coastal bank that bisects the property, AE 11-foot contour flood zone. We've got lawn extending outward on the south side of the house that leads down to a raised bed garden. You can see in the background on our plan that's currently on the screen, with multiple shell walkways. The lawn on the north side of the property extends up to the driveway. There is garden with stepping stones, a small man-made pond located to the east of the dwelling, which we are looking to remove and sort of reorganize, as Thad pointed out, all of the walkways and the patios, et cetera, and make them smaller into one useful space for the new property owners. Canopy trees on the site are mostly pitch pine. There is some eastern red cedar. There's one large Leland cypress that's located on the northwest corner, which poses a view issue as far as looking down the street for sight lines, safely exiting and entering the driveway. Understory trees on the site include Japanese maple, ginkgo, there's a black cherry, there's yew, there's some larger hollies on the northeast side of the property, as well as some dogwoods. The understory throughout the property is mostly ornamental. Non-native plants, there's Rose of Sharon, hydrangea, Japanese Andromeda, Japanese Pachysandra, Forsythia, lilac, lily of the valley, and hostas located throughout. So the gardens are quite a bit of an overgrown mishmash of ornamental vegetation, and the property owners are looking to simplify that, restore native vegetation to the area, and just simplify the management of the property overall. On the southern side of the driveway, on the southwestern side of the driveway, we've got a low-lying area. There's some native grasses under pitch pines. There's no significant canopy layers under those trees. And then on the western property line, or the northwestern property line, there's a large stand of bamboo, invasive bamboo, that's really taking over both this property and the property directly to the north at 665. Invasive vegetation observed throughout the property, basically lower than 20%, with the exception of the bamboo. We have some English ivy, we've got vine honeysuckle, some bittersweet, burning bush, winter creeper, and some wisteria that we would be proposing to manage. So the goals overall are to, as Thad pointed out, to provide the ability for the property owners to use that lower parking space to pull safely out of the garage that's underneath the house, and park a vehicle down there. By doing that, that allows us to reorganize all of the garden spaces, to remove all of the non-native vegetation mainly out of that 50-foot buffer zone. We are proposing to replant some of the hydrangeas in the foundation planting at the front of the house on the Strong Island Road side of the house, but just in the foundation planting, and plant the entire area out with a mix of native shrubs, trees, and wildflowers, perennials. So we're looking at adding 7 native trees in the form of eastern red cedar and amelanchier along the western property line after the bamboo is removed. As we move from east to west on that northwestern property boundary, we are proposing to plant some arborvitaes in that area, a smaller variety of arborvitaes, a dwarf cultivar that will allow there to be some screening between this house, this property, and the property to the north without overgrowing the space and becoming too large as it's quite narrow in that area. We'll be removing the raised beds and all of the shell walkways, reorganizing that with meadow plantings and shrub plantings along that area. The area to the south of the driveway, southwest of the proposed reconstructed driveway, will be planted with native ground covers as well as addition of a shrub layer in there. That is the lowest point on the property, and basically that area will be used as, I'm going to use air quotes, of rain garden. So stormwater will be able to be detained in there as necessary and then taken up by plants. The plant species that are in there are chosen to tolerate not only the shade under the pitch pine canopy, but periods of inundation if we get heavy rainfall events and water pools in that area, as well as periods of drought. Just to the south of the house, sort of on the eastern side of the driveway, this property's at a weird angle. We're reorganizing, so we're reusing all of that flagstone material, reorganizing that to create one patio with a small fire pit seating area and a pathway leading down. As Thad pointed out, the timber steps that are currently rotting are being reconstructed. The vegetation on the slope, you can see the green line that indicates the coastal bank and the blue line that indicates the floodplain. The fragmented coastal bank is that area highlighted in green. All of the non-native vegetation, wisteria, et cetera, will be removed from that slope, and the slope will be planted out with native fragrant sumac to make sure that it remains stable. Overall, we're looking at 285 perennials and ferns, native perennials and ferns, 7 native trees, as well as the thuja, which is native to northeastern United States, but not necessarily to Barnstable County, and 155 native shrubs to restore the areas that are proposed for sort of reorganization or to mitigate for the minor increase in deck and the minor increase in the driveway with the rent station. So happy to answer any questions about the proposed planting, mitigation, or reorganization of existing structure on the site.
Thank you, Teresa. Let's open it right up. Questions from commissioners? Janet, yes.
Is that me, Bob?
That's you. Sorry.
Okay. I'm working on an iPad today, so everything's a little bit different. A little bit of a struggle. I want to better understand the resource area delineations, and I guess this is for Thad. Using, this is Teresa's plan, which is perfectly fine to use because it's color coded. So the green line is the fragmented piece of the coastal bank. And I see that backing 50 feet up from there, you probably hit where you've got the red line for the 50. But what is the resource area that the rest of that red line, which bends then over to the west and then comes back around to the north again? What resource area is that 50 feet back from?
Most of that floodplain from just off the corner of the building along the neighbor's property, that is floodplain that exceeds 10 to 1, but is less than 4 to 1. And so you have coastal bank along there until you get up pretty close to Strong Island Road where it jumps up. closer to that driveway. So you can see on there
So
the
that
black is
50
the coastal. Please.
Okay, but so the 50-foot line you're showing is a buffer zone to the floodplain?
No, it's, well, for part of that, the floodplain is a coastal bank because it exceeds 10 to 1 and is less than 4 to 1.
Is that just that small area to the southwest of the deck that you had shown in a different color? I thought that was the only fragment of a coastal bank that was shown.
No, the entire westerly line, that slope
okay.
constitutes coastal bank.
Okay, that's, because I thought that was the only section of it there. So if that's all coastal bank, and that 50-foot line doing the funny thing that it does, where it moves back and then heads back north, is all coming off of the coastal bank there.
Yes, and then that coastal bank peters out as you get to where the floodplain wraps to the neighbor's property. And then there's another floodplain and slope that it intercepts on the other side of the road. We've accounted for that, not that it terribly affects the subject property. Okay.
All right, so that's clear. Thank you for clarifying that. I'd like to talk about the proposal for the expansion of the driveway. At some point in the, I mean, I looked at it and couldn't understand why there's not more than adequate room for backing out of that garage and turning a car. So I'm wondering if that expansion is really designed to accommodate 2 cars to park in that area.
That's exactly what it is. When there's 1 car parked in there, there's no room for a car to back out of the garage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, this is already a property with a tremendous amount of space dedicated for vehicles to move around and do what they need to do. I was trying to tell from your coverage chart what the expansion of the driveway does, where that is accounted in your. So that's in the resource area, right? That's in the floodplain and it's pervious hardscape, but I'm not seeing that any addition in there. Where is it in the chart?
So within the 50, on your chart, we have an increase of 140 square feet. That's that front entryway of a structure. And then the area of the hardscape increase is 380.
That's the mitigation, it says.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In Arch, in the
70 and 190, thank you.
So 190, that's the driveway.
Yes, and
So you
the current driveway goes back further than what we're proposing. So we're removing some driveway while adding some driveway.
Okay, but I'm looking at the site plan. I don't see that any portion of the lower driveway is being within the NDZ. It's all on the floodplain. That's why I was looking in the chart on the plan under the resource area, because I figured that's where it would be showing up.
So we have a hardscape increase of 150 square feet, the pervious hardscape minus 60.
Okay. So, but the driveway is pervious, right? So that hardscape, is it? That the driveway is all stone.
So with this, when we look at the northwest side of the building, the existing steps that are there, those are decreasing in size substantially. They're about half the width than the current.
Okay.
And while we're consolidating the patio and the walkway on the southeast side, that does represent a slight decrease in the amount of coverage there.
I see that. Okay. So that's, okay. So the expansion, as you pointed out already, is going to require 16 to 18 roughly cubic yards of fill, because that area drops down from the existing driveway. So that also necessitates the construction of the retaining wall, the boulder wall, to hold that fill in place, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's a lot of activity to gain a few feet of vehicle maneuvering.
We're really
Sure
talking
that this-
about, at the highest or deepest point, it's about 2 feet of material.
Okay. And so because it's going to, on the other side of that wall, it's going to drop down significantly into that low area. So Teresa, you referenced that as being, that's the area I would assume that you were referencing as being potentially a rain garden?
Yeah, I was using, it would act in that manner. So we're planting it out to be able to manage stormwater. It's already acting that way as the lowest portion of the property, but we're planting it appropriately to improve its ability to absorb stormwater, filter stormwater that might end up in that area, just as the natural low spot on the property.
But would the construction of the retaining wall interfere with that? Do you need to have drains installed there to direct any stormwater coming off that expanded driveway to direct it down into this low area that will be planted for it?
No, it would just be pitched towards it, and then it can go right over the stone.
Over it? Is it
Either
stone?
over the stone, between the stone, or we
Oh,
did
okay, so the
specify
stones are
degree.
not, they're gonna be permeable, what's the word, for allowing flow through them.
Yes.
So it's not like the concrete, it's not like a concrete wall, okay. So
No,
that's-
this would be some
that's
boulders
better.
with some filter fabric behind it to hold everything in place, so.
Okay,
We've also
Okay.
specified to lightly regrade the driveway so that the runoff goes to a low point closer to Fox Hill Road. But the intention is to get everything into that low area, any excessive stormwater runoff.
okay. And the last question, this one's for Teresa.
Mhm.
So when I look at the location of that Leland cypress, which is a significant, mature, large tree, it's somehow interfering with the line of sight coming out of the driveway.
Yeah, so of course it's showing, it was located on the site plan by Thad, and it's showing as this small little tree, but it's actually quite large. If you went out there and saw its canopy
Yeah, it's a big
extend
tree.
out
Yeah.
out to the edge of the road. So we recognize that there's a significant, loss of canopy in the form of Leland cypress, but to mitigate for that, we're pulling the trees back a little bit further, but removing all of the bamboo and adding a significant number of trees along that northern property line. I'm calling it northern or western property line, to mitigate for the loss of that one Leland cypress, but planting viburnum along the edge of there. So there'll still be some screening between the properties, but the property owners will be able to see clearly up and down the street when they're pulling out.
Okay, I was delighted to hear about the fate of the bamboo, so.
Yes.
Not sure yet how I feel about the Leland cypress, but that's it for my questions for the moment. Thank you both.
Thanks.
And if it helps, there's also a large burning bush out there that obstructs some of the view. That'll go.
That's also being removed, correct?
All right, thank you, Janet. Karen?
Going along with what Janet was just asking about that driveway, I noticed that there's a spigot that actually is used for that area that's going to be the rain garden. Is that going to be removed? It looks like maybe the hose goes under the driveway or something and then comes up.
I believe the intention is to remove that or use it temporarily while the plants are being established.
Correct. There's no plan to use that long-term in any way, shape, or form. I'm not sure what it was used for by the previous owner. The only thing I suspect is that the previous owners were obviously prolific gardeners. There's so many ornamental plants out there, so many different varieties of ornamental plants. So I suspect it was just being used to water the garden.
Okay, so it will be removed
Yes.
because the new driveway will go over where that spigot is. All right, and then the walkways that are just little stepping stones, Are they going to be brick or what are they going to be? And are they going to be pervious? I did notice 2 markers on, and I'm never good at this, but on one side of the house where near the rinse station that said brick, but I didn't know what they stood for.
So on the area to the southeast of the house, that's all reclaimed stone. So we're using the existing bluestone that's on site, and we're just reorganizing it to create that walkway from the front of the house to the back of the house to the granite steps that are going to replace the timber steps, and then reorganizing all of that bluestone where there's currently the small fish pond and a couple of different areas in there, and actually reorganizing and using that stone on site. The brick walkway is intended to match, there's an existing brick patio underneath the deck. So the brick walkway will just be a continuation of that to get up to the rinse station, and then is being used as a landing just outside of the rinse station. And then the steps are being rebuilt going up along that northern side of the house.
Okay, I guess that's why they had the 2 little things that said brick. I didn't
Yeah, I'm
understand.
sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I didn't see the staking, but I suspect that's the answer to that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I see no hands up, so I'll jump in. I don't have too many questions other than those that have been asked, but one is, oh, sure, I'm sorry. Oh, Sarah, did you have your hand up and you took it down? I'll get back to you. Okay, okay. The plan calls, the application says that there's going to be 520 square feet of mitigation. The land management plan says there's 6,472 square feet of restoration. Does that include the mitigation in part A of the question? And part B, I see this a lot recently where we have mitigation separate from restoration. Is there a reason to just not call it all mitigation?
What's required and what's voluntary?
That's the
So-
only reason. Yeah, okay. Teresa,
So
what
from
would
the-
say you?
Yeah, I was going to say from the Blue Flags perspective, we're calling it all one plan. So the 6,472 square feet is the entire management native plant restoration / mitigation area. But I think what Thad is saying is that from simply an application perspective, he's breaking it out to pull, this is what's required under the regulations for mitigation, and then the rest is voluntary. We're looking at it as all one comprehensive holistic plan.
So your restoration number includes Thad's mitigation number.
I'm presuming that, and Thad, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that you just broke out our numbers based on, because our numbers are the 6,472, and he's pulling out 520 of that as the mitigation that's technically required under the regulation, and then saying the rest is voluntary. So yes.
You got it.
Okay, so if more work were done in this house, you've kind of filled the property up with restoration. Would there be an issue from your perspective at carving out new mitigation area out of existing restoration area?
There's no plans to do any additional work on the house. I know right now the roof is failing on the house.
Yeah,
and so
I
there's,
saw that, yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely a eagerness to get the roof rebuilt. And part of that, as Thad pointed out, was some dormers that are being added. But other than that, I don't think there's any footprint for this house to expand or any other changes to be made on the property due to the constraints. But Thad, maybe you have something
Yeah,
to
that's
add.
true. That's true. There's no room left to build. All right. Anyway, it's just something I keep seeing over and over again where the mitigation number is different than the restoration number by a large amount, order of magnitude. And I'm just trying to figure out the implications of that. But I understand how it's being presented here, and that's fine.
I mean, in the past, we've talked about doing mitigation banking, but the commission's always reluctant on it. It's a carrot that could be offered that if they did want to do something in the future. But as Teresa said, what can they really do once they're said and done?
Right.
It'd be a
Okay.
new project, and there are other areas left on the site. The entire site is within jurisdiction. If they wanted to tackle the hillside, the northeast corner of the property, they would have some room there.
Right. Or replace the driveway or something. Okay. That's fine. So we actually, if there are no other questions, I think we need to step it up. We are starting to fall behind a little bit. I don't recall anything that would prevent us from moving forward here. Oh, there is a RIN station. Yeah, I forgot about that. How will the water be captured from the RIN station?
There would be stone underneath of it.
Just stone. And of course, your clients will be happy with your normal provisions of no soap and so forth.
Their understanding of it.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have anything else? Otherwise, I think we're ready for a motion.
To an order of conditions?
I believe so. Yeah. We didn't seem to be asking for anything else. Yeah.
I move that 48 Strong Island Road be moved to the April 6th meeting for an order of conditions.
Gordon seconds.
Roll call vote. Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So thank you, and we will
Thank you, everybody.
see you at the work session.
All right, next up, we have 28 Cross Street, Ken and Betsy Sommer, map 15D, parcel 4X28, SE 103542, proposed pool and site improvements.
Good afternoon. For the record, Sean Riley, Coast Engineering. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Sorry about the feedback there. With me today, I have Swavi Osev, who is the landscape contractor, and Shannon from Second Nature Garden Works, who came up with the planting plan. As always, my projects are fairly straightforward, right? This is very straightforward. This is in the backyard. We have a photo of the rear for those of you that didn't have a chance to get out to the site. It is all lawn in the rear of the house. I don't know where my photo went, but let me just jump back. Essentially, everything you see here in green is lawn. What they're looking to do is to make improvements in the backyard, adding a swimming pool and some additional patio space within the lawn area. There are no trees or shrubs to be removed with this proposal. Everything is to be done within the 50 to 100 foot buffer. I inherited this project from John Schneibel of our office, who after many, many years is retired and moved on to much better things than doing presentations. So one thing that we'd like to add is some drainage. I know it'll come up, so we'd like to add some drainage for the pool backwash and for the patio space. We do have a yard drain in place right now that handles the runoff. I'm not sure that it can accommodate any of the additional runoff for the patio space, so we'll be modifying our plan to include a dry well for that space. There's an outdoor grill area that they'll be looking to add off of the existing slate patio. And we've provided you with a full landscape mitigation planting plan that has over 1.5 to 1 mitigation for the addition of the hardscape that we're adding in the 50 to 100 foot buffer. We've got just a little over 1,200 square feet of coverage with the pool and patios, and we're providing a little bit over 1,900 square feet of plantings that will replace the lawn that's in the backyard. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sean. Questions? Anybody? All right, let's see if I have any. Yeah, drainage was the thing that I wanted to talk about, and I'm glad you brought it up preemptively. With that, and the grill area, Sean, that you mentioned, is that going to add any sort of significant coverage?
No, it's on top of the what we've counted as the patio space.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, it's just a built-in grill.
All right. So are you going to have drainage calculations, or are you simply going to add?
We can provide you with calculations. We're gonna perform calculations, so it's easier for us.
You could share them with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be a good idea, but I think it's a drainage tricky place, at least from my layman's perspective. Going, that you had that large, very high retaining wall there, and now you're putting a pool in there. I assume also that you've done calculations to the effect that pool won't cause that problems for that retaining wall.
Yeah, that's often a question about adding a swimming pool top of coastal bank. Actually, the density of water is less than that of soil. Soil is about 100 to 110 pounds per cubic foot, and water is only 63. So obviously, any of the foundations to contain the water, we'll go through the calculations that won't have an impact on that retaining wall.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it'd be good to see those, and instructive also. All right. I don't have too many other questions. So anyone else still? Is there anyone else? I think I saw a hand up a minute ago from Karen.
My only question is that one drainage spot that you say will stay and then you're adding more drainage, is something going to be done to protect it so it won't get stopped up given all of the mitigation that's going around it? Because all of that planting is right on top of the drainage.
Yes, so Suave is on the call, but we'll probably recommend that they install a silt sack within that so that you can easily pop the cover and pull out the silt sack and empty any of the mulch that gets built in there or spills in there. It's an easy enough method to clean that out so it doesn't contaminate or clog up that leaching basin. That's the last thing we want to do, because then they just have to pay to replace it. So that would be something that we could add into the conditions.
All right, and that will be monitored on a regular basis?
Yes. Yeah, they could do it when they close out the pool.
And what's the plan for the overflow from the pool? And is this a chlorinated pool or a salt water?
Salt. And we submitted I believe we submitted just last week for the record, the information about the salt filter.
Right, that's right. I forgot about that. Thank you. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Karen. Janet.
Thanks, Bob. Sean, I have to try to match up this your plan with the landscaping plan to determine whether at the end of this project, is there any lawn remaining in the back? When you look at it, looks to me, and especially if are you going to add a grill area to this, or?
Yeah, so yes, it is kind of tricky to match that up. So there will be, they're not showing the existing patio that's out here right now. So if we just take a look at the existing patio that's out here, that grill area is going to be added off in this area, and then it's going to wrap around to the pool area. So there will be a small pocket of lawn just in this area here. And it will continue around to band around the outside of what you're seeing here. There's a hedge in the backyard. So it'll just be this area here that'll remain lawn, and then you can see all the plantings that are coming along this entire area here.
Yeah. Okay. Just almost doesn't seem worth it to retain lawn, but that's their decision. I assume this is going to have an auto cover pool.
Suave?
Yes, there would be auto cover. There will be auto cover, but on the question about turf, there will be no turf. Pretty much what you see, Sean, if you can go back to the landscaping plan.
Yeah.
That kind of slightly changed. And what you see right now that's all the patio area.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I
all
thought.
the patio. That's all the patio area. Let me see. Can I get
Do you want to share your screen?
yes. I mean, you can do it, but over in that corner.
Yeah.
Over in that corner. Actually, no, you can go back to the plan. On the corner that you were pointing out that there's going to be a little bit of grass over there. We're going to do a gas fireplace, no fire pit fireplace. So I wanted to show this to you. If you can, can you see that? It's like a square right there. Where
Are you
were
sharing your?
pointing,
No, you're not sharing anymore. I can't. You don't have the screen up.
yeah.
Let me share.
So does that mean? Correct me again. Does that mean that then there won't be any remaining lawn?
There will
all
no be. Yeah, no irrigation for the turf. Yeah, this is
planting.
Yeah.
And all of the hardscape is at least semi-permeable. It's dry laid.
It's going to be dry
Stone
laid.
or
Normal. It's dry laid. Normally, the way we install is we do 3/4 inch crushed stone. It's permeable way of installation. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's permeable to some extent, but the surface of the stones obviously is not. But there will also be the dry well will be installed to take care of any runoff of that.
Correct.
That is correct. That is correct.
Are you going to replace the fence that's currently at the top of the
Yes.
The wall? So
Fence will be replaced,
Yeah.
and also we got privet between the two properties there, between the two condos.
yeah, what are you going to do with that?
We're gonna do channeling in between with little gate, and so that the neighbors can come and visit as well, enjoy the pool. That's the benefit of having. Well, we're gonna screen it with. There's gonna be privet on both sides, so we're gonna allow the privet to go through to grow through the the mesh.
Do you happen to know the variety of privet that it is? Is it California privet or is it one of the more? It is.
I believe so. Shannon can jump in on this one. Shannon, you there? She's the landscape designer.
She has her hand up
But I
too,
believe
so
it's-
she must. But she's muted.
Shannon.
You may have to hit *6 if you're on your phone.
Oh yeah. No, she's worked. She's trying to figure that. At any rate, okay. Do you need to go to the zoning board for approval for this?
We do not.
You do not.
We do not.
Okay. So I guess part of what I was getting at there is do you have any sense of what the abutters position is on?
We've got letters of recommendation from several of the abutters that was also submitted as part of that the salt chlorination package that you should have, that Nikki should have copies of.
And maybe, Janet, I didn't see it. Did you see it?
Nope.
The two digital people may not have seen it.
Oh, I see. Is Nikki there? Does she?
Nikki's with Shannon somewhere. They're trying to.
All right.
Yeah, I'm here. I was just trying to look through.
There you
go. Copy to see if I had it in there.
It's actually not particularly, it's not one of our performance standards, but I just was wondering whether anybody had an opinion, given how tight this site is to, and it's not fee ownership, right? It's a condominium, so their right to do this in the backyard is under their exclusive use right. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's in their exclusive use areas.
Okay.
So the letters of recommendation were attached to the part that has about the salt water and the type of salt used, and then it has the emails from various neighbors.
Okay. Okay, I would make a bigger deal and complain more about a chain link fence and privet hedges, but I think in this location with the fence that surrounds the whole area and the concrete wall down to the there's almost no opportunity for any wildlife to access this in any way. So I guess there's no value that's being lost because there isn't any value at the moment.
On the outside, where you see the white fence, the current conditions, that's going to be replaced with similar kind.
Yeah,
it's just between the neighbors. Yeah, just where the privet is, because we want to keep nice and soft look between, more greenscape than showing hardware and hardscape stuff.
Okay.
And Shannon is trying to get involved, but she's like, I can't get on camera nor microphone. She's texting me.
That's okay. I think we've.
It may be a moot point because, as Janet pointed out, it's normally we would have a problem with privet. We have a problem with chain link fence, but in this particular location, I'm not sure that it hurts the environmental aspects that we'd like to protect. Except that the privet.
That all previous permits showed this whole backyard being basically a parking lot, like parking spots for the condos, which never got installed. So it just became lawn instead of parking. So this is an improvement on what was previously approved, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it appeared to be overall a net gain. So Sean, you're going to provide an updated.
Yes, plan. we can provide you with the updated plan this week so that you'll be ready to for the order.
Yep, I think I assume that I think we could probably go ahead and schedule it for conditions with that coming in, because it's not a substantial difference. You're going to improve the drainage, which is good. All right.
Are we ready?
I think we're ready. We need to, I'm starting to get a little nervous about time, so yes.
I move that 28 Cross Street be continued to April 6th, 2022 for an order of conditions.
Gordon seconds.
Roll call vote. Janet.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
All right. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have 160. Well, so we have a small hiccup to discuss. So 162 Kelly Lane, Christian and Georgine Paltzer, map 11D, parcel 13A, D12, SE 103537, removal of the deck, construction of a patio, and mitigation. So it ended up on my agenda and on all the agenda in the Dropbox, but Thad had emailed me during the meeting to say that it was not on my town gov. So it's doesn't look like, to be on the safe side, it doesn't look like we should do too much discussion about it. I don't want to would be continued to the 6th anyway, either way, to do a draft order so we can continue to the 23rd if we have a lot of discussion about it, if anyone has a lot of comments or anything, or we can continue to the 6th and we can do a little bit of discussion and have the draft order ready to vote on. So I don't know if that has comments on that.
I suggest we move it. This is Thad Aldridge. I suggest we either postpone this to the 23rd or to the 6th. Just to be on the safe side and notice and all of that.
23rd sounds
safer.
Maybe like the best option.
Yeah, just in case there's somebody out there who wants to say something. And if not, we'll just open it, close it, and go to the.
All right, sounds good. So I guess we're just looking for a continuance to March 23rd then for that one.
I move that 162 Kelly Lane be moved to the March 23rd, 2022 meeting.
Gordon seconds.
Roll call vote. Janet.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
And just like that, you're back on time with.
We are. Thank you very much. Whoever messed that up, thanks.
Have a great day.
All right, then we have 20 Jericho Lane, Mark Leibovitz, map 10B, parcel B2, SE 10-3541. That's the removal of the existing pier and relocation of a relocation and construction of a new pier. Bill, I had never heard. It's very far from being approved by other town committees, as far as I can tell. So I don't know if we even want to bother discussing it.
No, I think I'd intended to send over a note requesting continuance. I just asked for a continuance to first regular meeting in April. And hopefully,
April 13th.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have some clue which direction we're going in at that point.
All right, sounds good. So we're just looking for a continuance on that one as well.
That's correct.
Okay. I move that 20 Jericho Lane be continued to the April 13th, 2022 meeting.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote, Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Next up, we have the order of conditions for 307 Bridge Street, David Stone, map 16B, parcel 16F1, SE 10-3534, proposed repairs to existing boathouse, pool deck, and landscaping site improvements. I did send the order over to Cole, and he had a few comments that I don't know if mostly, semantics, small wording things. But I don't know if Cole, if you want to go ahead and just go over those, and then we can have the commission state if they wanted any additional conditions or findings.
Very good. Thank you, Nikki. I had to turn my video off for my connection here, but my name is Cole Bateman. I'm a structural engineer for Coastal Engineering Company on behalf of our client, David Stone, for 307 Bridge Street. If you recall, this is the project where we're proposing to relocate a boathouse during construction into a salt marsh area. And in the last meeting, we reviewed a letter to discuss how we came across those options. We went through 3 alternatives and came across upon the one that FOD chose to temporarily put in the boathouse, among other parts of the project. So yeah, thank you, Nikki, for sending the draft order of conditions over. I did have some comments, and I believe that's what you're asking to review. So for let's see, special condition number 5 is my first comment. The original condition reads, all staging and storage of existing structures and equipment shall be located on the upland side of the project site. That seems to be taken directly from the DMF letter, and that was what we responded to, requesting permission to put it in the salt marsh. So one of my recommendations or suggestions was to eliminate this special condition, and that and perhaps it's redundant based on condition number 2 and 6 in the same section that read, any disturbance in the NDZ that cannot be avoided shall be minimized as much as possible and restored to pre-construction condition. And number 6 reads, all construction activities shall avoid intertidal and salt marsh habitat to the greatest extent practicable. Work shall be done in the upland portion of the site when possible.
That sounds reasonable to me. I actually had issue with that, the wording of that special condition anyway. Anyone else? Okay. I think we can go with that then.
The next,
Is that, yeah, go ahead.
So the next comment I had was for standard condition B1. The condition reads, it's in the conditions for demolition, construction, site disturbance, and drainage section. It reads, all material and debris generated during demolition of existing structures shall be loaded onto wading trucks and removed from the site daily. Stockpiling of debris shall not occur within any resource area. My suggestion or recommendation was simply to remove the first sentence and hold the second sentence, because we do have areas on the site that are past the 100-foot buffer, and we're hoping to have dumpsters located in out of the Conservation Commission jurisdiction.
Jen, is that okay with you? You're being the minder of the conditions. That seems reasonable to me. You're muted.
This project doesn't involve any demolition, so it's not
Doesn't even
particularly applicable anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Fine.
There will be some materials generated from the work on the boathouse for cuts and stuff like that. So.
Yep.
My next comment was regarding standard condition B3 and C1, because they seem similar. B3 reads clearing. I'm sorry, it's in the conditions for demolition, construction, and site disturbance again. It reads clearing of any vegetation or grubbing of the work site or within 100 feet of the wetland resource area should not occur between April 1st and September 1st. Condition C1 similarly reads, and it's verbatim, it's the same wording, and that is in the vegetation, landscaping, and mitigation planting. While reading through these conditions, I seem to have found that one a little conflicting with special condition B6, which reads, which the second part of it reads, all disturbed areas shall be stabilized and seeded prior to November 1st of each year. No disturbed areas shall be left unprotected or without erosion controls during the winter months. So it seems with those conditions combined, the work would have to be done after September 1st and before November 1st, which it only leaves about 2 months of work to do the boathouse work and the pool work, and then revegetate and mitigate the slope, regrade the slope too. We were hoping to be allowed to work during the spring in time to have seedings done by November.
All right. Any
Did
So
we talk about this did this come up? I thought I remembered that Nikki, you said that you would, it would be acceptable to have a sweep done prior to any disturbance of the vegetation if we're after April 1st, or am I confusing this with another?
I know that has come up recently. I can't remember specifically which project,
Yeah, me neither.
but I'm always up for that. I don't have a problem with that condition.
Okay.
So Cole, did you have a time frame that you wanted, or do you want the condition that work can go on as long as bird nesting sweeps are done throughout the nesting season?
I think so. And then we could also, I think, withhold the condition for November 1st, how it has to be seeded and stabilized by. So I'm not too familiar with for the next nesting season. I'm sure other people within my company are, and we could, definitely work out. I know part of this is the clerk of the works. So we could definitely probably incorporate that wording in because we will have presence on the site.
Okay, so you're basically suggesting either allow some work to happen in the spring or to get rid of that November 1st requirement.
Preferably to have the work done in the spring, especially because of the work required for the boathouse.
Okay. All right, so we can change that to to have the condition for the nesting sweep in the spring.
Very good, thank you. Right, and into the specific conditions. Starting with specific condition D3. This is in regards to stair material. The condition reads, stairway shall not be constructed with pressure treated wood. CCA or creosote treated wood is prohibited and shall not be used. ACQ treated wood may be used. However, the applicant is encouraged to use natural or alternative non-leaching construction materials. Though we recognize the intention of this condition, we were hoping that pressure treated material would be allowed and potentially the condition could be reworded so that no leaching material, pressure treated material wouldn't be embedded into the bank. However, could be used above it for framing for rails. I think our client would like to use a naturally decay resistant species. However, I don't think it would be possible for the framing components of the joists and stringers and stuff like that. And for the foundation components, I don't think we got that specific on the NOI plans, but we're proposing to use diamond piers, which are concrete anyway, so pretty non-leaching material.
Yeah, we've run into confusion on this before, and I think part of it is that we're not experts on this type of technology. Pressure treated, I would assume that the approved materials for treating the wood are pressure treated. I mean, I don't see how you could treat the wood unless it's pressurized. So to say that you don't want to adhere to, okay, I see I see the point here. So what is it that you're proposing to use?
So we're proposing to use pressure treated wood, however, not to use it as embedded posts or in the ground contact. This would be above. I think the condition says 2 feet above the bank, so we would follow that. However, all the material that would be in contact with the bank would not be a pressure treated product.
In the past, haven't we been against that, using pressure treated wood as the walkway? I think we've had a few.
Yeah, I think that the objection is just simply to not use substances that have been proven to be harmful to the environment. And what we've been told by a number of applicants is that you can't even get wood that is treated with the materials that are essentially banned. So that's why this says, and that's the CCA, and I guess also before that it was arsenic treated or something like that. But now ACQ is okay.
Just to point out, I was reading that the DMF small docks and piers document that I mentioned while preparing my letter, and it seems that they switched the material. It seems like they prefer, and it didn't seem right to me, but they prefer CCA instead of ACQ. It seemed flip-flopped, and we agree because CCA has its use in specific environments, but this isn't one of them for a deck in contact with human.
I don't know how to resolve this quickly, and I think we need to resolve it. As I've mentioned before, we're running a little out of time today for protracted discussion. I didn't expect us to be going through all the standard conditions to this level of detail. So what is your time frame?
I only have one more request on the past this one. So
okay, well, let's go ahead and look at that one because we don't know what to do with this particular one right now, I think.
Okay, and then I think our client, just one more note, I think our client is proposing to use a naturally decay resistant decking. It's just, I think the framing is what the question is for the last standard. But moving on to the last one, which is specific condition D5. This is just pretty much a technicality. It's for machinery within the resource area. The project consists of regrading, which would require machines. So for special condition D5, it reads installation of stairway in the resource area shall be performed by hand. the use of hand tools is permitted, but machinery is not allowed in the resource areas. We're just asking for the last sentence to be removed, that the products being implemented to build the stairs would be installed by hand at the diamond piers and wood framing, but we just don't want to be restricted for the other parts of the project where machinery would be required, like regrading the slope for handicap accessibility and removing the knotweave and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're doing grading, obviously you need machinery, and that is the whole project is within the NDZ in this particular project. We certainly don't want any machinery in the marsh area, and so we could change it to say not allowed in the tidal area.
Perhaps make it a separate condition in itself, then, and not tied to the stairs.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to need machinery to do the stairs.
Need to do stairs. It was just in the stairs section and where we would have machinery on the slope, where in the same location where the stairs would be. So we don't want to prohibit the slope from being graded using machinery just because the stairs aren't allowed to be constructed using machinery. It was just a technicality, I think, in the condition.
Comments from anybody? Janet, Nikki?
No, that makes sense.
Okay. I assume, Janet, you're capturing these?
No, Nikki is, because I'm on.
No, Nikki's doing it. All right. Nikki, Nikki, I assume you're capturing these?
Yes. Luckily, Cole sent me a nice email with all of the
It's
wording.
all laid out.
So I can
All right.
just copy paste.
Okay. All right. Is that all, Mr. Bateman?
That's correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and quickly with our comments. Go ahead and shout them out.
All right. I had something in the findings about that there's going to be 4 temporary piles. I don't have down where they're going to be, but I thought in addition to the thing that's, I think we need to say something about that in the findings at least.
Yeah, I agree. I actually had that, had some language there.
And then there's going to be 56 feet of staging planks in a U shape.
Yes, that's correct. That would be around where the boathouse would be temporarily located. Right. And also, we on the NOI plan, we do have a placeholder where the boathouse would be, which is where we intended to be. So I suppose those 4 piles would be within that rectangle.
Okay. And then under special conditions, the debris on the ground around the pool and boathouse will be cleaned up.
Yep.
I think that's all I had, except that the page letter numbering is off. It starts with B, goes to C, and then C again. That's
Yeah,
all
we've
I
had
had.
issues with that a few times. But I don't
I
know
know.
why.
Just thought I'd point it out.
All right, I will, yeah, we'll fix that.
I have some language. I can send this language to you, Nikki. I'll read it quickly here, but you don't have to try and capture it. But for a finding, comment letters from the DMF and the Chatham Shellfish Constable recommended that the temporary relocation of the boathouse to be outside of the intertidal zone. However, the applicant's representatives subsequently provided revised alternatives analysis that convincingly demonstrated that there is no feasible alternative. So I can send that to you. And then for a special condition, or for a special condition, 4 posts to be installed in the marsh to temporarily support the boathouse will be removed at the completion of the project. Resulting holes will be filled in and restored to their pre-existing condition. Photographs at low tide will be provided to the agent documenting the restoration.
Just for clarification on that one, wasn't it either cut them off below the surface or fully remove them?
Yeah, it was. That was what the proposal was. I remember whining about how I thought it'd be better to just I didn't, you're right. Yes, so if they're cut off 2 feet below grade, it's the same result, filled in and restored and give us some evidence that they look like they did before. Yep.
Yes.
I'll add that about the cutoff.
Okay.
Anybody else? A few typo thingies, and you'll see those when I send you this document. Okay. So I think if nobody else has anything, we can have a motion to approve it pending the language changes that we have discussed.
All right. I move that we approve the order of conditions for 307 Bridge Street, including the language that has been proposed at the meeting.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote. Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank you.
the next order is 55 and 69 Linnell Lane, Pamela Kindler and Richard B. Doyle, map 16J, parcels 1A R2 and 1 R3, 10 SC 103535, management of the snow fence on a coastal beach and sediment nourishment. I sent the order to Bob Perry, and he had no comment on it other than the language for the 250 cubic yards of nourishment. He wanted it to say limit it at 250 cubic yards or seek review and approval if more was needed, if it was a high storm season or something and more was needed. He wanted to kind of leave it, yes, only 250, but the opportunity to do a little more if we deemed necessary. But other than that, he had no comments.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me. So, yeah. Anybody who has anything, go ahead and start.
Yeah, we pretty much covered this one at the last meeting.
Yeah.
So
I do have, okay, let me just, on finding number 6, it says received a negative determination. Is that for an RDA? I assume.
Yes.
If so, we could just put, RDA in parentheses or something. And then this is a little history. It says that there was up in the permitting history, there was a 2021 AR cited. That's not talked about here in number 6 for their document history. I thought that it ought to be included.
Wait, I'm sorry, Bob. I'm going to go back and correct myself. So
okay.
The AR is what is referred to in number 6.
Oh, it is.
The applicant requested and received administrative approval.
Negative determination.
That was an AR.
Okay.
Yeah, not a negative determination.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So again, just to make sure, the document permitting history section talks about a 2021 AR, which I think should be mentioned in finding 6 here.
Mm-hmm.
And then special conditions under 2, we have all these A, B, C, D, and E. I don't think it covers the case where the applicant wishes to expand the existing fence, make it larger, increase it. Talks about removing it or moving it, but it doesn't talk about expanding it. And I thought I recalled from either their discussion or their documentation, if they wanted the ability to expand it as well, but I think we ought to some limits on that, and by saying that you have to talk to the agent if you want to expand it as well. So just add an E there or something, or an F. And that's all I had.
Again, the numbering's off.
Okay. So if that's it,
We ready?
we are ready.
Okay, I move that 55 and 69 Linnell Lane be approved for the order of conditions with the modifications discussed at this meeting.
Gordon seconds.
Roll call vote. Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
All right, the final agenda item is a certificate of compliance request for 328 Widow Road, Annabelle LLC, map 13K, parcel 11, W14, SE 103351, alterations and additions to the existing dwelling. If you recall, this one was on previously, and then I had found a special condition that had required them to file an RDA for the existing path to the water. So that RDA has been filed. So I believe that we can approve this certificate of compliance. We'll take up the RDA at the next meeting. It didn't say an RDA had to be approved. It just said one had to be filed. So, I mean, it's very vague. I'm not really sure.
Have we ever had an RDA, sort of an after the fact RDA, to approve something that was there in history but never permitted? This is a first, right?
It made no sense to me. It should have just been included on the order of conditions plan, and the approved order and the approved plan, and been done.
Right.
with.
The path is on the approved plan, so technically it was approved.
Right. So they, I mean, like I said, they filed the RDA.
thinking.
We'll take it up at our next meeting. But it's,
Okay.
They have now
I don't know
satisfied
about
their
the
special
thing.
condition.
So
Okay.
they are now technically legal.
Yes.
Okay. Once
All
they
right.
approve, yeah.
I move that we issue a certificate of compliance for 328 Widow Road.
Gordon second.
Roll call vote. Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
All right, so we're good for that one, and I don't have any unforeseen items. I don't know if anybody else does. Just a heads up, the 23rd is looking a little heavier than what we've been seeing recently. I think we had 7 new filings, plus whatever's been continued from previous ones. 3 of them are all Talippi Run, so I think they're kind of like a joint project of some sort, but I haven't had a chance to even look at what they are. So that might just be kind of 3 hearings rolled into one.
Yeah.
But that's just a heads up for the 23rd.
Okay. All right, well then, we have 5 minutes left to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Gordon seconds.
A roll call vote is required. Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
and I shall make it unanimous. All right, thank you all. That was
Thank you.
it's always fun. I
Thank
love these. I love these I love these times of the week, or the month, I
See you
mean.
next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Is
So
it
for
Bob,
the-
just a